My only venture at this moment is re-establishing control over this continent and every person on it.
All my allies are gone. I'm losing.
You can count on the Iron Bank as soon as the gold arrives.
Enough with the clever plans.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones breakdown video. I just finished watching Season 7, Episode 4, so let's take a closer look at this episode, The Spoils of War. The episode begins at High Garden, which is the seat of House Tyrell. Jaime Lannister and his men had just stormed the castle and taken all of their gold, and the Lannisters are currently in a significant amount of debt to the Iron Bank. So they planned on using the gold that the Tyrells have to pay off the loans that the Crown owe. And as I've stated before, whenever you can't pay off your debt to the Iron Bank, not only does it cut you off from getting their support in the future, but they will also start to fund your enemies, which is something Cersei cannot allow to happen. The Lannisters need this gold to pay off the bank, and Cersei plans on hiring an army of sellswords for the wars to come. So far, Cersei has been one step ahead of Daenerys Targaryen, and the Lannister army even caught the Tyrells by surprise. Jaime Lannister and his men were able to take High Garden with relative ease, and now they are on their way back with all the goods. But as Jaime and Bronn are loading up the wagons to head back to King's Landing, Bronn notices something is wrong with Jaime, which is strange because Jaime should be very happy right now because the mission was accomplished and they barely even broke a sweat. Bronn asks Jaime if the Queen of Thorns gave him one last prick in the balls before saying goodbye. Bronn has no idea what Olenna Tyrell said to Jaime right before she died. After Jaime got inside High Garden, he had orders to make sure Olenna Tyrell was killed. Cersei wanted her mutilated and strung up in King's Landing, but Jaime made sure she was given a more painless death. So he gave Olenna Tyrell some poison that would make her fade to black a little bit easier. But before she died, she revealed to Jaime the truth about Joffrey's death. Olenna Tyrell wasn't about to allow Cersei to get the last laugh, so she told Jaime to tell Cersei that she was the one who poisoned their son, who died pretty damn violently. And that is why Jaime is having a bad day, but he isn't about to tell Bronn that. As they are loading things up, Jaime hands Bronn a satchel full of gold coins for his help, but Bronn isn't entirely satisfied. Bronn wants to be given High Garden too, and the reason why Bronn wants High Garden is because Jaime Lannister offered him a bigger castle if he helped him sneak into Dorne and get his and Cersei's daughter Myrcella out of there safely. Although Myrcella was poisoned by the Sand Snakes before she could ever make it home safely, Bronn still did live up to his end of the deal, and Jaime has promised him a bigger castle for a very long time. But Jaime isn't about to give him High Garden, and he makes a very good point why. Jaime knows Daenerys will want revenge for this, and Bronn would never be able to defend himself there when she comes. It's a good thing Jaime got him to reconsider because Daenerys was definitely on her way for some payback. Jaime promises Bronn that he can have any castle he wants after the war is over, but there is no telling when that could be. And with Cersei sitting on the Iron Throne, the realm will never really be at peace. Before the scene ends, Jaime sends Bronn off with Randall and Dickon Tarly to make sure they get all the crops that they will need to keep his men and horses fed for the many wars to come. In the next scene, we go to the Red Keep where Cersei Lannister and Tycho from the Iron Bank are discussing the current debt. Cersei assures him that the money is on its way and Jaime Lannister is escorting the gold himself. Cersei actually plans on paying off this outrageous amount of debt in one payment, and she also has plans of beefing up her army and navy. She is not going to rest until the Seven Kingdoms are secure. The Iron Bank has every intention of helping Cersei as long as the gold arrives. She is currently in a great position, and I have to admit Cersei has been amazing so far this season. As of right now, she is my MVP of the season. She continues to make the right moves while planning for the future. Her plan has been foolproof up until this point, and it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold if Cersei does end up getting an army of sellswords and a larger fleet. If Daenerys starts to lose any of her dragons, then Cersei has a real shot at winning this war against her, although the Lannisters get the shit kicked out of them at the end of this episode, and most importantly, the war against the Army of the Dead is still to come. Next we go up north to Winterfell, where Littlefucker and Bran Stark are having a private conversation. Littlefinger pulls out the Valyrian steel dagger that was used during an assassination attempt to kill Bran Stark all the way back in Season 1. After Bran witnessed Jaime and Cersei having sex, Jaime pushed him out of the tower window hoping he would fall to his death. But when he survived, someone tried to take his life again. There are many theories surrounding this second attempt that was taken on Bran's life. Some say Joffrey put the hit on Bran Stark hoping it would please his fake father Robert Baratheon, while others say Littlefinger was actually behind the hit. Either way, the Valyrian steel blade has made its way back to Winterfell, since Littlefinger stole it from Ned Stark's office after he had him set up to get arrested by the Kingsguard. Littlefinger is acting like he is showing a sign of good faith by giving this Valyrian steel to Bran, but we all know he doesn't do something for someone unless he thinks it can help him in his position in some way. Bran asks Littlefinger if he knows who this blade belonged to, but Littlefinger says no. But I think Bran may have been testing his honesty here, and Littlefinger failed miserably. I believe Bran does know Littlefinger knows where it came from, which leads to something Bran does later with this dagger. Littlefinger does acknowledge the fact that Bran may have seen some things that most men wouldn't believe, but Littlefinger is referring to everything that lies beyond the wall that Bran may have seen during his travels. Littlefinger has no idea what Bran has actually seen, and these things may end up leading to Littlefinger's death. Littlefinger tells Bran that it's a shame Bran has finally made it back home and now all this chaos is going on in the world, but Bran cuts him off and says chaos is a ladder, which is the exact same thing Littlefinger said to Varys many seasons ago. What Bran says gets Littlefinger's full attention, and he has to be wondering why the hell Bran would say something like this. Bran obviously knows a few things about Littlefinger that he probably doesn't want people knowing. Littlefinger has finally met his match. Bran is someone that actually knows more than Littlefinger does, and for once Littlefinger is feeling extremely vulnerable right now. This just got very interesting, and Littlefinger will soon come to find out that he will not be able to outmaneuver someone that can see the moves he plans to make. Littlefinger gets up to leave as Mira Reed walks in the room and he says, "I am sorry to have disturbed you, Lord Stark." But Bran tells him he is not Lord Stark, because Bran has no intentions in ruling the North. He wouldn't even be able to rule with the way that his mind now works. Bran is too disconnected and detached from everyone else, and he has a much larger role to play and can't be bothered with the day-to-day duties of running the North. Mira comes in to tell Bran that she is leaving, but Bran already knows this. Mira says that she would stay with him, but she wants to be with her family when the Army of the Dead comes. She probably doesn't expect to survive the winter. Now that Bran is home, Mira feels like her mission is complete. She got Bran to the Three-Eyed Raven, and she even got him back home. She was expecting a little bit more of a pleasant goodbye from Bran, but he has become so detached that he really doesn't know how to interact with anyone without coming off as an asshole. No one fully understands Bran's mental capacity at this moment. Bran does tell Mira, "Thank you for helping me," but she was expecting more, because her brother died for this. Hodor and Summer even died for him, but Bran is still pretty much emotionless. The problem is, we can't fully understand what is going on inside his mind just yet, so I can't be mad at Bran for the way that he has been acting. Both of his parents are dead. His best friend died to protect him, and he just saw his uncle who is now a half zombie, and he has the entire weight of the realm resting on his shoulders, and he knows it's going to be up to him to figure out how to end this long night. Bran may have witnessed his own death, or he may have even witnessed his brother and sister's deaths that are still yet to come. He might be having visions of the Night King slaughtering everyone at Winterfell, so I can't judge him now for the way that he is acting, because I do not know what is going on inside of his head. If anyone else has seen what he has seen, they would probably be acting the same way. Bran will never be Bran again now that he is the Three-Eyed Raven. He will still look the same, but he will never act the same again. But let's move on to happier times. In the next scene, we finally see Arya Stark making it home, as she sits on her horse overlooking Winterfell. I know I said this in my last video, but this is a beautiful shot right here as she looks over the property. Arya then makes her way to the gate, and these assholes won't let her in. Little do they know that she could carve them both up into little pies if they weren't Stark bannermen. They do allow her to come inside the gate and wait while they go and find Sansa. When Arya sits down, I liked how she just kind of looked around the courtyard and soaked it all in, having the realization that she has finally made it home, to a place she probably thought she would never see again. While the guards argue over who will tell Lady Sansa, Arya uses her ninja-like Faceless Men skills and dashes out to the crypts to see her family. The men go tell Sansa that someone is there claiming to be Arya Stark, and when they tell Sansa she was asking about Maester Luwin and Sir Roderick, she knows right away it's Arya, because not too many people would be asking about men that have been dead for a very long time, and she already knows where Arya would be. So then we cut to our second Stark reunion this season, but I have to say, Arya didn't seem as excited to see Sansa as Sansa did seeing her. When Sansa came up to give her a hug, Arya just kinda looked at her like, "What are you doing?" You can see just how dark Arya is now. She is also a little bit detached from some of her emotions, but just not as bad as Bran. It's funny because Arya asked her if she has to call her Lady Stark, because she knows that Sansa always wanted to be in this kind of position. She even wanted to be queen. Sansa tells Arya she shouldn't have ran from the guards, but Arya makes a very good point. They need better guards. Those guards sucked. We did get a nice smile out of Arya though when Sansa says Jon will be even more excited to see her again than he did seeing her. And we all know how much Jon and Arya love each other. When those two reconnect, I will probably cry like a little bitch, but I don't care. Sansa then finds out about Arya's little hit list that she has been keeping all of these years after Arya asked Sansa if she was the one who actually killed Joffrey. Cersei has blamed Sansa for playing a role in his death, and news has spread everywhere. Cersei still wants Sansa's head on a spike, which Littlefinger said he would help Cersei see the lion fly over Winterfell. Sansa tells Arya that she didn't kill Joffrey, but she does wish that she did. Arya said that no matter how long her list got, Joffrey was always first, and Sansa kinda laughs it off, as if Arya isn't being serious, but we all know Arya is very serious. If she had the right opportunity, she would have killed Joffrey. She was ready to kill him all the way back in Season 1. I really like what happens next. They both ask each other how they got home, and they both say it's not a very pleasant story, but then Arya says their stories aren't over just yet, and I really like that line. And Arya really liked that Sansa agreed. And it kinda got Arya to let her guard down a little bit, and she actually reaches out and pulls Sansa in for a hug, and she smiles. It was really nice to see these two embrace each other after all this time and all that they have been through. Sansa tells Arya that Bran is home too, and Arya is very happy to hear this, but Sansa doesn't smile. She knows how broken Bran is, and Arya can tell that something must be wrong with Bran by the expression on Sansa's face. So they go outside to see him sitting alone in the godswood at the weirwood tree. Arya is very happy to see Bran, and she even gives him a big hug, but Bran is nearly emotionless once again. He tells Arya that he knows she was at the crossroads, and he knows that she planned on going to King's Landing to kill the Queen. Sansa now knows Arya wasn't kidding about her hit list. Arya truly intended on killing every single one of them on that list. Bran then pulls out the dagger that Littlefinger gave to him, and Sansa knows right away that Littlefinger did this to benefit himself, hoping to gain Bran's trust. But I don't see that happening with Bran. He knows Littlefinger is up to no good. Bran ends up giving the dagger to Arya, and he says he doesn't need it because he is a cripple and can't use it, but I believe he gave it to Arya for another reason. I believe Bran tested Littlefinger when he asked him if he knew who the dagger belonged to, and when Littlefinger lied and said he didn't, that sealed his fate in Bran's eyes. So Bran gave the dagger to Arya knowing that she will use this dagger to kill him. Bran knows what's up because he probably seen this happen already in his mind, and he knows she would be the one to carry it out. The three Starks then go back inside the main courtyard of Winterfell, and I gotta say I really love seeing this scene, seeing all three of them together. Podrick and Brienne see them as they are coming in, and Podrick tells Brienne that Lady Catelyn would have been proud because she kept her vow. Sansa and Arya are now home safe, but Brienne tries to dismiss what Podrick said because she doesn't feel like she really did enough, mostly because Arya made it home on her own. But I don't care what anyone says, Brienne worked her ass off trying to get these kids home. She went toe-to-toe with the Hound so she could escort Arya home herself. She stared at a tower for months just waiting for a sign that Sansa was in serious trouble. Then she killed several Bolton men to keep Sansa from being taken back to Ramsay. It might not have went according to plan, but Brienne did her job, so shout out to Brienne for putting in that work and still holding it down to this day. Littlefinger watches from above as the Starks make their way into the castle. Littlefinger knows that with all the Starks getting together, his chances of getting any kind of control or influence over Sansa in the north is getting less and less by the day. His time is beginning to run out, and he knows he's going to need to devise some kind of scheme to work his way back into the fold. As Littlefinger is watching over them, the raven that is next to him makes a noise, and you can see Littlefinger's eyes start to shift, but it's very subtle. And I think that may have been a sign that Littlefinger is thinking about sending out a raven to someone, so he can put forward a new plan to strengthen his position, and possibly turn his back on Sansa. Next, we get a quick scene of some pillar talk with Missandei and Daenerys, but Jon has shit to do, so it's quickly interrupted. They go down into the caves where Jon plans on mining the dragonglass. But further back in the cave, Jon shows Daenerys some paintings left by the Children of the Forest. It's paintings of the children and the first men fighting together against a common enemy, the White Walkers. Jon uses this as a point to show Daenerys that they will need to band together if they plan on surviving the winter. He wasn't lying about the Army of the Dead. It's real. It's always been real. Daenerys does believe Jon now, and she even agrees to help, but he must bend the knee first. But Jon knows if he lays down and accepts a Targaryen as his queen, the North will be outraged. Daenerys doesn't quite understand just how hated the Targaryens are in the North, but she still believes if Jon would support her, then the rest of his men would fall in line. But it's not that simple. I think if everyone in the North could meet Daenerys and see what kind of person she is, they might be a little bit more open-minded. And if everyone in the North actually saw the Army of the Dead for themselves, then they too would know that they are going to need the support and help from any and everyone, even a Targaryen and their dragons. Especially their dragons. Soon enough, they are going to learn that they need to get over this. Daenerys does say something very interesting to Jon though before they leave the caves. When Jon says he can't bend the knee because of what his people would think, Daenerys says, isn't their survival more important than your pride? And this is almost exactly what Varys says to Ned when he was locked in the cells in King's Landing. Ned was put in the same position to try and save his daughters. Sometimes you have to tuck that pride for the betterment of others, and this is something Jon will end up having to do as well, just like Ned did when he had to swear fealty to Joffrey. I thought this was a very interesting parallel with Jon and Ned once again. As Jon and Daenerys come out the cave, they are greeted by Tyrion and Varys. Daenerys learns that the Unsullied have taken Casterly Rock, but it pretty much meant nothing because the Lannisters were already gone, taking a much more important castle at High Garden. Not only did they get the gold and the food, but they knocked off another one of Daenerys' big allies, and Daenerys is pissed. While she has been sitting on her ass at Dragonstone, the Lannisters and Euron have been chipping away at her alliances one by one, strengthening their position. It's safe to say that Tyrion's plan did not work. He was outmaneuvered by his own brother and sister, and Daenerys even questions if Tyrion is actually trying as hard as he could be, or is he actually trying to protect his family. She does make a fair point because you have to wonder how motivated Tyrion actually is, knowing this could end up getting Jaime killed, who he still loves dearly. But it's time to cut the clever plans and start taking over with fire and blood. Daenerys was so pissed it kinda got me excited. She was ready to take her dragons right into downtown King's Landing and start burning shit, and I loved it. Daenerys could win this war right now with her dragon power, but she will not win the people if she does it this way. But if she wants to defeat Cersei right now, her only move is to smoke her ass out of the Red Keep. Daenerys is torn and she doesn't know exactly what to do, so she actually asked Jon for his advice, which he was reluctant to give. But he knew he had to say something or else she was going to react out of blind rage. Jon told her she can't go burning them all or else she would be just like her father. She is going to have to play the long game if she wants to do it right. And it's going to be interesting to see if Daenerys can keep her patience and refrain from going mad and torching everything. But for now, she accepts Jon and Tyrion's advice about not burning down King's Landing. But it's not going to stop her from torching the Lannister and Tarly armies out in the open field by the time this episode ends. Next, we go back to Winterfell where Podrick is getting his ass kicked once again by Brienne. I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. They keep showing us these training scenes with Podrick and Brienne, and I think that's because one day Podrick will eventually use his skills to kill someone important or even a White Walker. During their training, Arya approaches them eager to test her own skills against Brienne, but Brienne isn't aware of how good Arya actually is, so she's worried about training with her herself. But Arya is cocky as hell and she tells Brienne, "Don't worry, I won't cut you." I really love this scene. Arya looks so graceful and smooth, and the only way Brienne was actually going to be able to stop her was by using her brute strength, which she did when she kicked Arya and put her flat on her back. But Arya is tough as nails and she hopped right back up like she was the Karate Kid. Now I know neither one of them were actually trying their hardest, but I believe Arya could have killed Brienne if she really wanted to. Similar to how Oberyn could have against the Mountain. They are so fast it's nearly impossible to stop without a gun. I also loved how this scene ended though, when Brienne asked her who taught her, and Arya says no one. Brienne thinks she was just being funny, but we all know who Arya really means. The camera then pans up to Sansa and Littlefinger, who have been watching them the whole time. Sansa kinda takes a deep breath and walks away, and there is actually two ways you can look at this. Sansa was either jealous of this, or she was kind of disturbed by it, by how good Arya is, or the person she turned out to be. Either way, Sansa didn't like what she saw, and Littlefinger was surprised by this too. He must know Arya is not someone he can play games with, and Arya gives him a cold stare, letting him know she definitely isn't someone he can play with. And she knows about your little secret meeting with Tywin Lannister. Back on Dragonstone, Davos and Jon take a walk and talk about Daenerys. Davos knows Jon is starting to have feelings for her, but Jon pretends he doesn't have the time for that. Trust me, Jon, there is always time for that. It's not like you're spending every single minute of the day planning for the future. We then get a call back to Stannis Baratheon here when Jon talks about the number of men they have, and Davos corrects him by saying the word fewer. Davos is a quick learner, sharp as a tack. They run into Missandei during their walk, and Missandei asks Jon about his last name. Where she comes from, they don't take on a bastard name like Jon had to. Jon says his last name is Snow because his mother and father weren't married. But this may have been some foreshadowing because we may find out later that Jon's parents were married, which would make him a legitimate Targaryen and rightful heir to the Iron Throne. But as of right now, Jon still knows nothing. Jon and Davos then question her about how really free she is. She says that Daenerys did free her and she made her an advisor, but could she really leave if she wanted to? Missandei may think they were being rude here, but I think Jon was just trying to see if Daenerys really can be a good ruler. Jon then notices a Greyjoy ship approaching the shore, and it is Theon Greyjoy arriving after being nearly killed by his uncle Euron Greyjoy after the attack on the sea. Theon was not expecting to see Jon Snow there, was he? Theon knows there is going to be a problem. Theon was always a smartass to Jon, dating all the way back to when they were just kids. He was always rubbing it in Jon's face that he was a bastard. When Jon found Ghost, Theon basically said Ghost is a run of the litter just like you, Jon. Now that father isn't around, Jon really gets his chance to get up in Theon's face. But Theon did save Sansa, so Jon will find a way to work with him. I was pretty happy to hear Theon say he was trying to get Daenerys' help to get his sister back. That leaves the window open for Theon to step up and save his sister, and possibly even kill his uncle Euron in the process, which is something I have predicted he would do. But Jon tells Theon that Daenerys isn't there, and this is where the episode starts to intensify as we reach the main event of the evening. We learn something very interesting here. Randyll Tarly tells Jaime that all of the gold has made it back to King's Landing safely through the gates. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was not expecting this to happen. I thought Daenerys was going to be able to get here in time to stop this shipment, but apparently not. That is another big win for Cersei, but before the Lannisters can do their victory parade, something amazing happens next. Bronn all of a sudden hears the thunderous sound of a stampede containing thousands of pissed-off Dothraki that have been bloodthirsty ever since they stepped foot on Westerosi soil. The Lannisters are not the only ones who pay their debts. I loved how you could actually hear the Dothraki charging before you could even see them, and their war cries echoed across the battlefield, making some of the Lannister soldiers absolutely terrified what was going to appear behind that hill. Robert Baratheon's worst nightmare was about to come true. A tidal wave of Dothraki men in the open field is not something you want charging directly at you. As Jaime Lannister tells Bronn that they can hold them off, Drogon lets loose a roar louder than all of the Lannister lions combined. Jaime now knew he was fucked. Daenerys soars above the Dothraki providing air support, and she looked pissed. One of the last things some of these Lannister men will ever hear is Daenerys screaming the word Dracarys. Drogon opens up his release valve and torches the front line of men, which creates a bottleneck for the Dothraki to get behind the enemy lines. And for the next 10 minutes, it's nothing but pure carnage, a bloodbath. The Dothraki carved Lannisters up like a hot knife through butter. But that's when Jaime remembers they have the ballista that can bring down the dragon, so he sends Bronn off to operate it. One Dothraki soldier tracks Bronn down, but he has a surprise waiting for him, a giant-sized arrow right for his chest. It was kind of a waste because Bronn could have just slit his throat once he peeked his head inside, but it was cool looking nonetheless. At some point during this battle, Jaime gets into a 1v1 fight against one of the Dothraki men, and right as he is about to be overpowered, he gets saved by his Valyrian steel plot armor, Dickon Tarly. Then Tyrion shows up all of a sudden, and I wasn't expecting to see him there, but he overlooks the chaotic battlefield. He knows the Lannisters are getting slaughtered, and he's afraid Jaime might lose his life. There is also another beautiful shot during this battle. Daenerys comes soaring across the water on Drogon, and it looks really cool as the water ripples below them as he creeps up on the Lannister men. But Bronn has the ballista locked and loaded, ready to take Daenerys and the dragon down. But his first shot goes whizzing past Daenerys' head, and this startles Tyrion because he now realizes Daenerys is very vulnerable. Tyrion had to have been so torn inside at this moment. Two people that he really loves are on the verge of killing each other. Tyrion does know just how good Bronn is with an arrow, but Daenerys scans the ground and sees where the shot came from. But Bronn is already loading up for his second shot before she can get close, and boom, Bronn hits his target, sending Drogon into a tailspin, forcing him to land in the middle of the battlefield. Now Daenerys is extremely vulnerable as she attempts to remove the arrow from Drogon's shoulder. Daenerys is extremely lucky she didn't fall off of her dragon from that height, but she too was wearing Valyrian steel plot armor. As Daenerys is pulling out the arrow, Jaime seizes his one opportunity to make a mad dash to take them down. But Daenerys and Drogon turn just in time, and Jaime realizes he done fucked up now. Drogon opens up to unleash hell on Jaime Lannister, but once again, his Valyrian steel plot armor comes in to save the day, aka Bronn, and he tackles Jaime into the water, just in the nick of time, as Drogon's fire soars across the water. Jaime Lannister was not burnt, but his heavy-ass armor sinks him right to the bottom, and the screen begins to fade to black as he helplessly reaches out for help. This episode ends the same way Tyrion nearly drowned when him and Jorah were attacked by the Stone Men in Valyria. It does look like Jaime Lannister could possibly die here, but we all know he is not going to die just yet because I think he still has a much bigger purpose to serve in Season 8. This episode was outstanding. The season continues to get better and better as we build up towards what I am sure will be an explosive finale. Comment down below and tell me what were some of your favorite moments from this episode. What did you love? What did you hate? What do you want to see happen next? Once again, thank you all for stopping by and watching today's video. I will be releasing my episode 5 preview trailer breakdown tomorrow, so I hope you all come back to watch that one too. I also want to give a special thanks to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you all so much. I will see you in the next one. Bye.